February 2023. Air India places the largest aircraft order in commercial aviation history. 470 new planes, worth $70 billion. That's a fleet bigger than what most entire countries have. The announcement sent shockwaves through the aviation world. Why? Because just 2 years earlier, Air India was a joke. We're talking aging planes held together with duct tape and prayers, flight attendants who hadn't been paid in months, and passengers who would literally choose any airline except Air India. It was the textbook example of how not to run an airline. And then, the Tata Group bought it back. The very company that founded Air India in 1932 took control again after nearly 70 years of disastrous government management. And suddenly, impossibly, Air India is trying to compete with Emirates, Singapore Airlines, and Qatar Airways, giants that have dominated Asian aviation for decades. Here's the crazy part: they might actually pull it off. India is now the world's most populous country, with the fastest growing aviation market on Earth. And Air India has something no other airline has: direct access to 1.4 billion potential customers right as they re-entering the middle class. But can a fallen giant really rise again? Can Air India transform from a laughingstock to a legitimate competitor in just a few years? Or is this just another case of too little, too late? Today, we're diving into the battle for the Asian skies. The resurrection of Air India, the strategies of the Middle Eastern giants, and the high-stakes competition that will shape how billions of people travel in the coming decades. Let's get into it. To understand where Air India is going, we need to understand where it's been. And trust me, it's a wild ride. Air India started as Tata Airlines back in 1932, founded by J.R.D. Tata, one of India's most legendary industrialists. It was India's first commercial airline, and for decades, it was a symbol of national pride. You had the Maharaja mascot, the elegant service, the connection to India's post-independence optimism. In 1953, the Indian government nationalized Air India. And for a while, it worked okay. Government-owned airlines were common globally, and Air India maintained decent standards through the 70s and 80s. But then, things started falling apart. Government ownership meant political interference. Hiring decisions were based on connections, not competence. Routes were chosen for political reasons, not profitability. Union demands made the airline impossibly expensive to operate. And worst of all, there was no accountability. When a private company loses money, it either fixes the problem or goes bankrupt. When a government-owned company loses money, the government just keeps pumping in taxpayer cash to keep it alive. Air India burned through billions. Literally billions of dollars in bailouts. The fleet aged. Maintenance suffered. Customers fled to competitors. By the 2010s, Air India was the airline you flew only if you had absolutely no other choice. The horror stories were legendary. Planes with broken seats, toilets that didn't work, in-flight entertainment systems from the 1990s. Flight attendants were openly rude because they knew they couldn't be fired due to union protections. In one infamous incident, rats were found on multiple Air India flights. Actual rats. Running around the cabin. That's when you know you've hit rock bottom. By 2021, Air India had debts of over $8 billion. The government had been trying to sell it for years with no takers. It was seen as a poisoned chalice. An unfixable mess. And then the Tata Group said, "We'll take it." So why would Tata want Air India? Why would one of India's most successful and respected business conglomerates voluntarily buy a failing airline? Nostalgia played a part, sure. J.R.D. Tata founded the airline, so there was sentimental value in bringing it back to the family. But Tata doesn't make $8 billion decisions based on nostalgia alone. They saw something bigger, an opportunity. India's aviation market is exploding. Right now, India has about 700 commercial aircraft. Sounds like a lot, right? Compare that to the United States with over 5,000, or China with nearly 4,000. India's aviation penetration is absurdly low. Only about 7% of Indians have ever flown on an airplane. 7%! In a country of 1.4 billion people, that leaves enormous room for growth. And that growth is happening right now. India's middle class is expanding rapidly. Incomes are rising. Regional airports are being built. Budget carriers like Indigo are making flying affordable for people who never could before. The Indian domestic aviation market is projected to become the third largest in the world by 2030. And international travel? Indians are increasingly wealthy and want to see the world. Outbound tourism is skyrocketing. Tata looked at this and realized someone is going to dominate Indian aviation in the coming decades. It could be foreign carriers like Emirates or Singapore Airlines capturing all that lucrative international traffic. Or it could be an Indian airline that keeps that value within the country. Air India, despite its failures, had valuable assets. Slots at congested airports, bilateral rights for international routes, brand recognition, and a historic legacy. In the right hands, it could be revived. So Tata made the gamble. They paid about $230 million, which sounds like a steal until you realize they also assumed $8 billion in debt and committed to massive investments. The total financial commitment? Probably north of $100 billion over the next decade. It's one of the biggest corporate turnarounds ever attempted in aviation. And it all started with that shocking aircraft order. Then, on February 14, 2023 Valentine's Day, Air India dropped a bombshell. They announced an order for 470 aircraft from Boeing and Airbus. To put that into perspective, 470 planes is more than the entire fleet of United Airlines. It's comparable to the total active fleet of Air France-KLM, one of the world's largest airline groups. The order was a mix of 290 Boeing and 180 Airbus aircraft, both narrow-body planes for domestic and short-haul routes and wide-body jets for long-haul international flights. Deliveries are scheduled to continue all the way until 2030-5. By then, Air India will have completely replaced its aging fleet and massively expanded its capacity. This order sent a clear message: Air India is serious. This isn't just a cosmetic makeover. It's a full-scale transformation, but here's the thing. Buying planes is the easy part. Well, not easy, $70 billion isn't exactly chump change. But it's straightforward. You write the checks and Boeing and Airbus deliver the planes. The hard part is everything else. You need thousands of new pilots, and India is already facing a pilot shortage. You need tens of thousands of cabin crew, and not just anyone, you need people who can deliver world-class service. You need ground staff, maintenance crews, and operations personnel. You need to redesign cabins, upgrade entertainment systems, improve catering, modernize IT, and rebuild customer service from the ground up. And maybe the biggest challenge of all is changing the culture. You have to get employees who spent years working in a dysfunctional organization to suddenly care about excellence. That's a monumental task. Tata's strategy? Bring in outside expertise. They hired Campbell Wilson, the former CEO of Singapore Airlines subsidiary Scoot, to be Air India's CEO. They've poached executives from top-tier carriers like Emirates and Singapore Airlines, building a completely new leadership team. They're also spending big on employee training and improving working conditions, hoping to make Air India a place where talented aviation professionals actually want to work. But they are racing against time, because while Air India rebuilds, the competition isn't standing still. Let's talk about the real competition. The giants that have dominated long-haul travel for the last 20 years. I'm talking about Emirates, Qatar Airways, Etihad, and Singapore Airlines. These aren't just airlines. They're global brands synonymous with luxury, efficiency, and world-class service. Emirates, based in Dubai, is the big dog, operating the world's largest fleet of Airbus A380 South and Boeing 777s. They've built Dubai into a global hub connecting East and West. Their strategy is brilliant. Dubai is at the geographic crossroads of Europe, Asia, and Africa. So, passengers flying from London to Mumbai or Sydney to Paris naturally route through Dubai, and Emirates captures that traffic. Qatar Airways follows a similar model out of Doha. They're slightly smaller than Emirates, but have arguably even better service, winning world's best airline multiple times. And then there's Singapore Airlines, the Asian champion, consistently rated as having the best service in the industry. They basically set the standard everyone else tries to match. What do these airlines have in common? They're backed by wealthy governments, they have massive home market advantages, and they've spent decades building their brands and perfecting their operations. Air India is trying to compete with that. It sounds impossible. But Air India has one massive advantage: India itself. Here's the thing about Emirates, Qatar, and Etihad. Their home markets are tiny. The UAE has about 10 million people. Qatar has less than 3 million. They rely almost entirely on transit passengers, people flying from point A to point C who just happen to pass through Dubai or Doha. Air India has 1.4 billion potential customers in its home market. And not just any customers, a population whose demand for travel is growing faster than almost anywhere else on Earth. Indian domestic travel is exploding. International travel is booming too, as more Indians travel abroad for business, education, and leisure. This creates a powerful network effect. Air India can offer seamless connections between domestic Indian cities and international destinations. Think Mumbai to Goa, then straight to London. Or Delhi to Bangalore, then to Singapore. You can't get that convenience with Middle Eastern carriers without adding hours to your journey. There's also the emotional appeal. Many Indians would prefer to fly their national carrier if it's competitive. The Maharaja brand still has positive associations despite the recent dark years. And here's the kicker. The Indian government can and will support Air India with things like favorable airport slots and priority in negotiating international routes. This home market advantage is Air India's superpower. The question is whether they can execute their transformation fast enough to capitalize on it. So here we are. Air India has hundreds of new planes on order. It has the immense financial backing of the Tata Group. It has the advantage of a massive home market. And it has new, experienced leadership. But here's the reality check. Turning around a massive, deeply dysfunctional organization is brutally, incredibly hard. Just ask any company that's ever tried. First, the execution challenge. Let's start with the fleet. Right now, Air India operates a chaotic mix of aircraft. Different Boeing models, different Airbus models, all with different cabin layouts and ages. From an operational standpoint, this is a nightmare, inefficient, and wildly expensive. Simplifying this fleet to a few core types will take years and means retiring planes that could still technically fly. Next, there's the labor challenge. Air India has powerful historic unions that have fought tooth and nail against any change for decades. So far, Tata has played a diplomatic game, but restructuring is unavoidable. That could mean strikes, work slowdowns, and resistance from employees who got comfortable with the old culture of just showing up to collect a paycheck. It's a delicate and explosive situation. Then you have brand reputation. Decades of terrible experiences, delays, cancellations, dirty cabins, lost bags don't just vanish from public memory overnight. Business travelers who were burned time and time again will need a lot of convincing to give Air India another shot. Winning them back requires flawless execution, consistently, over a long period. One bad flight can undo months of good PR, and while Air India is trying to fix itself, the competition isn't waiting around. Indigo, India's largest domestic airline, is aggressively expanding internationally. They are younger, leaner, and have a culture of operational excellence baked into their DNA, the very culture Air India is trying to build from scratch. Indigo could easily capture the mid-market international traveler before Air India even gets its new planes fully integrated. There's also the sheer cost. Airlines are cash-burning machines even in the best of times. Those aircraft orders alone represent tens of billions of dollars. Add in airport infrastructure upgrades, massive pilot and crew training programs, global marketing campaigns. It all adds up to an astronomical bill. The Tata Group is wealthy, but their pockets aren't bottomless. At some point, Air India has to stand on its own 2 feet and become profitable. Finally, you have all the risks that are completely out of their control. Geopolitical tensions like conflicts between India and its neighbors can shut down airspace in an instant. Volatile oil prices can destroy a business model. A global recession can make people stop traveling. Aviation is a notoriously cyclical business that gets hammered by external shocks. The odds, frankly, are not great. History is littered with failed airline turnarounds. And the clock is ticking. Air India needs to show significant tangible progress within the next 3 to 5 years, or it risks losing all credibility and momentum. But despite these huge challenges, let's not be too pessimistic. It's not all doom and gloom. In the 2 years since Tata took over, there have been real visible signs of progress. First, the new planes are actually arriving. The first of those 470 jets are touching down, including beautiful new Airbus A350s with modern cabins and a much better passenger experience. They've also completely revamped the branding. The planes have a new paint job. The logo has been updated, is a fresh look that respects the airline's heritage while feeling modern and contemporary. Inside the planes, passengers are reporting noticeable improvements in catering and service standards. It might not be at the level of Singapore Airlines or Emirates just yet, but the change is real and people are noticing. They've also modernized their website and booking systems. This sounds boring, but it's absolutely crucial. Air India's old IT infrastructure was practically a museum piece. Making it easy to book a ticket is step one in winning back customers. They're also expanding their route network with smart new flights, like a direct service from Bangalore to San Francisco, directly connecting India's Silicon Valley with America's. This strategy is designed to recapture the high-value traffic that was previously forced to fly through hubs in the Middle East, and it's working. Corporate contracts are coming back. Big Indian companies that had blacklisted Air India for unreliability are now giving it another look. But perhaps the most important change is internal. Employee morale is on the rise. Seeing new planes arrive, having competent management, and receiving investment in training sends a powerful signal. It tells everyone, from pilots to cabin crew to ground staff, that the company is serious about becoming a world-class airline. It creates a sense of pride and purpose that was missing for decades. Look, it's still very early days. The journey ahead is long and filled with obstacles. But the initial trajectory is positive. The question now is whether they can maintain this momentum, accelerate the transformation, and finally turn the Maharaja of the skies back into a true king. So who's going to dominate the Asian skies, honestly? Probably all of them, but in different ways. The aviation market in Asia is so massive, there's plenty of room for multiple winners. Emirates will keep its crown in the premium long-haul transit market. Singapore Airlines will stay the gold standard for service. And Indigo will continue to own India's domestic and short-haul regional flights. But Air India? They have a real shot at carving out a huge niche, connecting India directly to the world with competitive service and convenient routes. Think about it. If you're flying from Bangalore to New York, would you rather take a direct Air India flight or have a layover in Dubai with Emirates? If Air India's price, service, and schedule are competitive, a lot of people will choose the direct option. The same logic works for dozens of routes: Delhi to London, Mumbai to Sydney, Chennai to Frankfurt. If Air India offers similar quality with better convenience, they'll grab a significant chunk of the market. The wildcard here is China. Carriers like Air China, China Eastern, and China Southern are also expanding aggressively. They have a massive home market advantage. Recent global tensions and lockdowns have slowed them down, but they will be back. Asia is fast becoming the center of global aviation. Over half of all new aircraft deliveries in the next 20 years are headed for this region. The competition will be fierce. Our India doesn't need to be the biggest. They just need to be good enough that Indians choose them over foreign airlines. And with the market's growth, good enough could mean a massively valuable airline. Alright, let's bring this all together. Air India's transformation is one of the most ambitious corporate turnarounds in aviation history. We're talking about going from a national embarrassment to a potential regional powerhouse in just a few years. The fundamentals are all there: huge aircraft orders, strong financial backing from the Tata Group, a home market that's absolutely exploding with growth, new leadership with international experience, and government support. But the challenge of actually pulling this off is enormous. They have to change a deep-rooted organizational culture, build operational excellence from the ground up, and compete against airlines that have spent decades perfecting their craft. And all while overcoming a damaged brand reputation. The Middle Eastern giants aren't going anywhere. Emirates, Qatar, and Singapore Airlines will continue to dominate premium long-haul travel. They've built incredible operations and brands that won't be easily displaced. But Air India doesn't need to beat them everywhere. They just need to win at home. Connect India to the world. Capture that enormous growth in Indian travel demand. Become the default choice for Indians flying internationally. If they pull it off, Air India could become one of the world's largest and most valuable airlines within a decade. The Indian aviation market is just that big. If they fail, it'll be another cautionary tale of hubris. A fallen giant that stayed fallen despite billions in investment. My prediction? I think Air India will succeed, but maybe not spectacularly. They'll become a solid, respectable airline. Not the best in the world, but good enough to capture a big slice of the Indian market and compete effectively on key international routes. The real winner, though, will be the passengers. More competition means better service, more routes and lower prices for everyone. Whether you fly Air India, Emirates, or Indigo, the battle for Asian skies benefits us all. So here's my question for you. Would you fly Air India today? If you've flown with them before, have you noticed any improvements? And if you're from India, do you feel a sense of national pride about this transformation, Or are you still skeptical? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I genuinely want to hear what you think. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the future of aviation, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're going to keep exploring the business battles, geopolitical shifts, and technological changes shaping our world. The battle for the Asian skies is just beginning, and honestly, it's going to be fascinating to watch. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.